Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We're going to take a look at a little bit more of a, should we call it an advanced tip on layering melodies. So pretty short video, but there's a lot of detail in there that you can use to make your melodies sound a little bit better. So let's listen to the melodic sequence we've already got, and then we'll look at the second layer of synth preset that I've just created. I've just created a saw preset in Rapid there, and I'll show you how I layer that second layer in sometimes. Okay, so that is the melodic sequence just quickly made for this demonstration purpose. Now, let's get rid of the top melody here so we just have this focus. And the second sound that we have here is this one. I'm going to pitch this up an octave. So together, let's just close the filter down a little bit more on here. That's the volume. We want that closed. Let's pitch it back up because I just undid that. Okay, so we have these two sounds. And they work well together. They don't sound a million miles apart. They kind of jigsaw together nicely. But this is a really quickly made preset, just two saws. And you can see one is on the normal octave, and then this one's one octave below. And that layering just there sounds okay, not too shabby, but what we want to do is layer this. Now we can use EQ and compression and any other plugins to shape our sound, still do that. Plenty of tutorials that I've done on that. I'll leave the playlist on screen now for you for them. But on here we want to approach it differently. So if we just look at what's happening, these rolling notes here are the same as these bass notes here. And that just drops an octave. So these are all just the bass notes. These few notes up here are part of our chord structure. And you can see on the first one we have a C minor, but we only have the C and the E flat. Let's get it on the same octave. We don't have the G in there. So what we're going to do is, instead of using the first two notes of the triad, which is C and E flat, we're going to use the last two notes, which is E flat and G. So we are creating a full chord. So I'm going to transpose this up to G, and then we know this needs to be E flat, so just drop that back down. And now we have this instead of this. Adds a little bit of elevation. It's completing the chord, and it obviously works because it's a chord. Now, what we can do is the same here. These are exactly the same notes. We've got a different note here, so we'll attack that second. So there we are, exactly the same. This one is going to be a B flat. So it goes back to sounding a bit flat here, and we've got this F, and we're just going to flatten this down so it's just the same chord to keep it simple. And this is going to be, we've got the E flat, the G, and we've got a B flat as well in there. So let's transpose that to B flat, and we know that needs to be a G to complete the chord. And then finally this one needs to be on D at the top, and this is probably going to go to F sharp, but we need it to be on a G. And there we are. And then this last note, I'm just going to put up to B flat an octave above, which is doubling the bass, which is on B flat as well, just to kind of get that little tip over the edge that it's the kind of sequence is starting again. And that'll tie in with this melody once we make this end bit rise up a little bit more, and it'll tie in with that nicely. So let's have a listen to it now. Okay, and let's listen to that sequence as it was before. We'll just transpose this up one octave like we did and get rid of that adjustment. This is what it sounded like before. you can hear them elements are added in. It just gives it that little bit of a uplifting feel. The listener's not going to know what you've done there, but it's going to sound like, oh, you've layered something else in there. When technically all you've done is shifted the notes to complete a chord because it's already a 2-note sequence. So that is more of the advanced tip, really. But the other thing to look at, and people are constantly questioning when I open the synth, why are you using that sound? Why are you using that much unison? Why have you knocked that down 1 octave there? And the reason is creative choice. It's how the sound needs to be. Every time I am mixing this sound, I'll have the other one in the background, and I'll go, does it need to be an octave lower, or does it need to be an octave above? And it sounds a little bit thinner now, it doesn't have that weight below it, so I want that weight. And it adds extra character to that. And it's all these choices now. The sound, does it fit with the other one? Does it need a bit of a longer release tail? Does it need more sustain? Does it need a shorter decay so we've got a pluckier sound? These are all the things that cross my mind when I am designing. Now, if you look at that, that is 2 layers of synth there. That's all it is. But it's a little bit more than that when you look at it in terms of the kind of tech side of the synth. Now, on this synth here, we have one difference, which is we've changed the note positions to have the last 2 notes of the triad, so then it blends with the first 2 notes of the triad on the first MIDI sequence. So that's one difference, but then here we've got 8 unison on 2 channels, so that's 16 differences there. We've got 16 layers. Then we've got 2 layers here of different sounds, they're slightly differently positioned. And then we've got 2 differences, one being middle C, one being 12 semitones below. And this magic mouse keeps making things move. So we've got more layers there than what you actually see. Then the layers are delayed, and you've got a few layers. That's an extra layer of technique to get your sound sounding better. If we look at this one, there's a lot more going on in this preset. This is called At the Beach. It's one of the sequences that come with it. And we've got 4D tune. So we've essentially got 4 here, and then we've got 5 and 6. So that's 6 layers. But then we've got differences in sounds. We've got 2 different sounds there, so that's 7 and 8. That's 2 different sounds there. Then we've got a plus octave here, and then we've got so much more going on here in terms of sound shaping. So these are all layers. They're not just, oh, I've made an adjustment because I wanted to use the pulse width modulation feature. No, I've used that, even though this is a preset, I'm just saying, I've used that to shape the sound, to put it into a position where I want it, to add an extra layer of interest to the sound. Not just because it's there, and oh, it sounds weird, and then it sounds nice. It's a creative choice, and once you've done enough preset design, you will get to understand how things manipulate your sound. So I hope that does open up a door to creating some different melodic sequences by having the 2 different layers like that. So if you was to put that into context on this synth, on that second layer, what we've done is essentially this. So we're playing 2-note chords back and forth, but we're doing it over 2 different sounds. So these other 2 notes we've just added in here are the other synth, not the first one. So that is the end of the tutorial. If you enjoyed it, let me know down in the comments down below, and hit the like button and the subscribe button. 3 videos per week on various trance topics and music production in general as well. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.